What's going on? This is Out of Sports with another WWE video. And today's video is going to be the top 5 worst WWE United States champions of all time. Yeah, this is going to be only the WWE version, not the WCW version. It got like the same, history, but just the WWE version. And just let y'all know, I'm not going to be adding Bret Hart on here because he had it for a week. He should have never had it. Let's just pretend it never happened, all right? Number 5 on the list is Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke is a 2-time United States champion, and he never did anything with that championship when he had it. He beat Jeff Hardy back in 2018 in Extreme Rules. He beat him in like 6 seconds. And he defended it against Jeff on SmackDown and at SummerSlam. Successfully. As soon as he got done with that feud with Jeff, he was not on SmackDown. He was rarely ever on SmackDown. Then he had a feud with Rusev that lasted about 3 or 4 months. And it was just the most boring shit because they were barely on the screen. Like, it'd just be 2 weeks that wouldn't be on there. And then all of a sudden, 1 week they're on there, you're supposed to remember they got beef, And he had it for like 156 days. It's not his fault that he was, they didn't include him. They didn't treat him like a champion, He had the United States of Nakamerica thingy, and they never really, did anything with that. Nothing ever came of that. So number 5 is definitely Shinsuke Nakamura, man. He could have did way more. Number 4, it's another recent one. I'm going to put Ricochet. Ricochet, he's probably like one of the most exciting people to watch, if you just watch him based on like matches. And he won the U.S. title from Samoa Joe, and I remember when he won it, I was pretty excited. I was a fan of him. But man, he lost it 3 weeks later to AJ Styles, and he never won it back. And he has fallen so hard from when he first came in. Ricochet, he could have did way more. He only had 21 days with that championship, man. Just imagine what he could have done. But he had a really good feud with AJ Styles over the title. But unfortunately, as soon as that feud was over, so was his push, basically. I think he might have been in the King of the Ring tournament. And ever since then, man, he was just barely seen. So number 4 on my list is definitely going to be Ricochet. Number 3, and I think everybody can agree with this, Jack Swagger, 2012. WWE tried so hard with Jack Swagger. They wanted him to be a star, bro. And, honestly, I think that it's on him, I ain't saying he's bad, but, you could say with people like Ricochet that they didn't give him a chance. And that's a fair statement. But you can't sit there and say that they didn't give Jack Swagger a chance. He was given so many opportunities with so many different things, and it never once worked out, Swagger, and then he beat Zack Ryder for it. And Zack Ryder was like the hottest thing back in 2011, 2012. He beat Zack Ryder for it, and it was just like the most boring. I had stopped watching during that time because it was just so boring seeing Jack Swagger. He wasn't the sole reason why I stopped watching, but he didn't help. He beat pretty much my favorite at the time, Zack Ryder. And there was no story to it. There was no point. He beat him 1 week on Raw randomly. Yeah, that was back when he was teaming up with Dolph Ziggler. He's with Vicky Guerrero. There was so many different eras of Jack Swagger, bro, but this was not good. And I don't know if any of them were that good, but this was a low point in his career. Number 3 is Jack Swagger. Number 2 on this list actually is coincidentally the man who beat Jack Swagger for it. It's Santino Morella. I don't think anybody can dispute this one either, man. Santino, you know, I don't know where they were trying to get at with him. When I was a kid, I thought he was funny as shit. I still think he's funny, but now that I look back, I'm like, what was... Yeah, he was funny as shit, but he shouldn't have been a champion for 160-some days. But that's what he did with the U.S. title. Like I said, I wasn't watching it at the time, but, I went back and looked, and he barely defended this championship. Like, he barely would defend it. And from what I seen, as soon as he defended it, 6 months later, he lost it to Antonio Cesaro. And honestly, he could have been on this list, but he's not. But if I could give an honorable mention, it might be him. I mean, the U.S. title when Swagger won it, bro, from Zack Ryder. I mean, from that point until John Cena won it in 2015, that title was just a piece of shit. I mean, it was, bro. Like, Swagger, Santino, Kofi, and, not saying he was bad, but, he always had that title. Dean Ambrose had it and never defended it. They didn't care about that title back then. And Santino is a prime example. He had it for 160-some days, barely defended it. Nobody remembers him as U.S. champion. Everybody remembers him as Intercontinental, yeah. But nobody remembers his U.S. title reign, except in bad ways. That's why he's on this list. And number one, I mean, from my perspective, it's obvious who number one is and should be and only could be. It's Orlando Jordan. Man, some of y'all might not even know who the fuck that is. Orlando Jordan he's something, man. It's so weird. He was on SmackDown, and he was like, he was JBL's boy. JBL was WWE champion. John Cena was the U.S. champion. Orlando beat Cena for the title with the help of JBL, because at this point, Cena was already the number one contender for JBL's title. So John Cena was going to be in the WWE title match at WrestleMania as U.S. champion. Cena didn't need that title. Somebody had to take it off of him. Why was it Orlando Jordan? I don't know. Because he won it. And I mean, Orlando was cool. Like, in the ring, he was really good, actually. But they gave it to him, and the first thing he did was, just carry it around for a while. Then he finally got into a feud with Heidenreich. And, man, some of y'all might not even know who the fuck that is. But Heidenreich, Orlando Jordan versus Heidenreich is a match that, in my mind, will make people turn that TV off. This is my opinion. And he had it for about 150 days, man. About the same length as Santino's, but it was about 3 times worse than Santino's reign. Don't know why. At least Santino had longevity. Orlando got into a feud with Chris Benoit. He cheated to beat him. I'll give him that. He did retain one time when he cheated against Benoit. But then Chris Benoit beat him for it in 25 seconds at SummerSlam 2005. And Orlando got about 3 or 4 rematches, and every single rematch he lost in less than 25 seconds each time. It was, 22 seconds, 20 seconds. He tapped out. He would always tap out in less than 25 seconds. And after he lost the U.S. title, as is the case with so many other people, Ricochet, Zack Ryder, he lost that U.S. title and he lost his whole push. He was in a fatal 4-way for the U.S. title at No Mercy that October, a couple months after he lost it. And then I faced somebody, don't really remember who, in a Survivor Series qualifying match. And he lost. And after that, I can't tell you that he did anything other than be on Velocity, which was basically the equivalent to the show they got now called Main Event. Orlando Jordan, he will go down as the worst U.S. champion. He was the worst. He had no business beating John Cena, especially when Cena was headed into the main event scene. I mean, just looking at the people on SmackDown that could have won it, I see why he won it. Because he was JBL's protege, and maybe at the time they had big aspirations for him. Because, I mean, they had him walking around with the world champion. So, obviously they thought they had something. But nonetheless, he is the worst U.S. champion of all time. And that is the top 5 worst United States champions of all time. By Exotic Sports.